Hi, my name is Caitlin Norsworthy. My project today is going to be a developmental autobiography. So here is my presentation overview. So today I will be going through my development from prenatal development to infancy through toddlerhood, then preschool, elementary school, all the way through middle and high school. I'll begin today with prenatal development. And this was a quote that I found that I'll be relating back to my own prenatal development throughout. And so this study states that attitudes towards pregnancy often influence the timing at which women seek prenatal care. And the health seeking behaviors of pregnant, low socioeconomic status, ethnically diverse women in the United States may depend on perceived ability of social support and quality of medical care. And so I'm going to be relating this to my own development because if people are not having access to medical care, they may have more difficulty with their pregnancies. So the absence of that may be a way that pregnant women are able to get better care. So now I will begin with my own prenatal story. When my mother became pregnant with me, my parents were married and in their early 30s. They were healthy and raising one son, my older brother. They planned this pregnancy for several months and were already beginning prenatal care and seeing an OBGYN. My parents were both employed and able to provide financially for my family. They had proper health insurance coverage, our housing was stable, and my mother had proper nutrition to care for herself and me. There were no issues with substance abuse or any other health problems at the beginning of her pregnancy. But with that being said, during her pregnancy, my mother did develop gestational diabetes while she was pregnant with me. Because of her status and her ability to access proper medical care, she was able to manage this with prescribed medicine. As I stated previously, many women do not have the access like my mother did to this kind of medical care. As a white and middle class woman, she was able to receive any medical care that was necessary for herself and me, and we were very lucky for that reason. As I said before, I have an older brother who was just about 4.5 when I was born. And according to one study, younger siblings crawled and walked earlier than their older siblings did, suggesting that the onset of younger siblings' motor milestones may be facilitated by imitating or modeling their own older siblings. And this was something my parents always noted to me. And although my older brother was quite a bit older than me, they felt as though I learned skills not too long after he did. And it's definitely possible that I was imitating his behaviors and looking up to him in that way, which allowed me to develop these skills at an earlier age. We'll start with my development at 3 months. And so, according to the Mayo Clinic, some of the normal habits for infants by 3 months are that they'll smile when you appear, but you meaning the parent. They'll start making cooing sounds. They're quiet or smile when spoken to. They seem to recognize your voice, and they cry differently for different needs. And according to my mother in an interview, my development at 3 months, some of the things that she noted were that I was able to hold my head up, and doctors began telling my parents that I was developing language skills quickly, and I was quite alert, and I was physically growing quickly. Continuing with infancy, according to the Mayo Clinic, by 6 months, infants can generally make gurgling sounds when they're playing with you or when they're left alone. They babble, make a variety of sounds. They use their voice to express pleasure and displeasure, and they move their eyes in the direction of sounds, showing that they're recognizing them. And they'll respond to changes in your tone of voice. They notice that some toys make sounds and some don't, and they'll pay attention when music is on. According to my interview with my mother, my development at 6 months, I began sitting up during this time. I paid attention when my family members were talking, so my two parents and my brother. And my doctors noted that my language skills were still developing quickly and that I was growing very quickly. Finally, my infancy at 12 months, normal infants at 12 months will start imitating speech sounds that they hear. They'll be able to say a few words such as dada, mama, or uh-oh, and they understand simple instructions such as come here, and they will recognize common items and their words for them, such as shoe or other words that they hear a lot. My development at 12 months, I began saying a few words, which is definitely similar to what the Mayo Clinic says is expected. And my first words, according to my mother, were mama, dada, and juice. And I was responding to instructions and recognized many common words. During this time, I began crawling and I began walking at 9 months. Moving out of infancy and into toddlerhood, according to the Mayo Clinic, at 18 months, um, children will be able to recognize the names of familiar people, like the people in their family or people they see regularly. They'll recognize the names of objects and many body parts. They can follow simple directions, especially when they're accompanied with similar gestures, and they can say as many as 10 words. According to an interview with my mother, my development at 18 months, I was able to speak in 2 or 3 word phrases. I was recognizing my brother, my parents, and my home daycare provider and their names. I was able to follow simple instructions and understand many words. And my doctors, again, continued to say that I was growing quickly. Continuing with toddlerhood now for 24 months or just about 2 years, what's normal for children at this age, according to the Mayo Clinic, are that they're saying simple phrases such as more milk, so that's 2 or 3 word phrases. They're able to ask 1 to 2 word questions such as go bye bye. And they'll follow simple commands and understand simple questions that are said to them. They can speak about 50 or more words in total and speak well enough to be understood by at least half the time by the people that are with them a lot, their primary caregivers. According to my mother, for my development at 24 months, I was speaking in phrases using many words. I was following simple instructions, and people were easily able to understand me when I was speaking. Beginning at age 3, children are now in their preschool years. And according to one article, there are huge developmental leaps in their motor development between being a toddler and becoming a child. So, this time between age 3 and 4, the preschool years, are those years between being a toddler and becoming a child. And you can expect to see that there's big developmental changes that occur. And so, according to an interview, my own development at age 3, I was continuing to develop very quickly, and I began going to preschool, and I was beginning to speak in full sentences, so more than those 2 or 3 word phrases. I was now able to say short sentences, and I was running and climbing and jumping now, and I started making friends at daycare. Continuing that preschool age where all that development is going on, at age 4, it was the end of when I was in preschool. According to one article, fine motor coordination and visual motor integration are a good indicator of a child's overall level of functioning. They are also a good predictor of the child's later academic achievement. So, this early coordination that is noticed in these preschool years can be predictors of how a child will be learning later in life. And so, with my own development, I was showing on my assessments that I had fine and gross motor development at an expected rate. and I was able to write my name. I was reading simple books at this time, and I loved riding on swings, and I had many friendships, and I began losing my first teeth. And so that expected fine and growth motor development was something that could be used as a predictor of future success. And I had normal rates of fine and gross motor development, and I was able to have academic success in my later life. So, beginning with my elementary school years, and I want to start with a quote about parenting styles and their impact on child development. This study states statistically significant developmental differences were found, but no sex differences, in that the younger children evaluated the permissive mother positively, while the older children were consistently negative. So my parents were certainly not permissive. They were authoritative parents. We had rules and a lot of support. And as I grew older in elementary school, this parenting style positively impacted my development. And so, as you can see down below, we're going to be talking about my development from ages 5 through 10. These are my elementary school years. And my parents throughout this time were very involved in my life. My mother was a teacher, and she actually worked at the school that I went to. I never had her as a teacher, but she was always nearby. And I always loved learning and loved going to school. And I think that that was really influenced by my mother. And I was always performing very well in school. My report cards and MCAS scores all showed that I was exceeding expectations in math and reading. I had many friendships, enjoyed playing sports, and was organizing charitable events. Finally, we're at middle and high school, the last part of this presentation that we'll be going through. And I wanted to begin with a quote about sports and their impact on development. And so it said that peer relationship profiles were motivationally salient in sport. And sports really impacted my life, especially between the ages of 11, 18, those middle and high school years. I was very involved in sports. I was on multiple teams through every season, and many of my friendships were directly formed through those sports. I continued loving school, and I performed very well in all subjects, and I was very motivated by preparing for college. And I continued to focus ever since elementary school on charitable events and organizations, whether it be through clubs or through my own finding. And this relates to this quote that I found where it says, during the formal operational stage, adolescents begin to think about alternative ways that the world could be and to ponder deep questions concerning truth, justice, and morality. And I think that type of thinking began for me, and it made me really focus on charitable events and organizations and things I could do to make the world better. Eventually, this also motivated my career and college choices. Becoming a teacher was really motivated by my desires to help people in the world. Thank you for listening to and viewing my presentation. This is my works cited page, this and the next slide that will come up, where I give credit to all of the great resources I used to develop this and all of the interviews that I conducted.